Hello, it's Dana. I am headed to the game with my husband. The Kansas game is coming up today with a kick at 11 a.m. My husband coined a phrase about the debacle last week in Dallas-Fort Worth area. He called it the Texas Wildcat Massacre. And that is exactly what happened that day out on the field. I certainly hope that today we can rebound from that Texas Wildcat Massacre and not end up with a Jayhawk massacre. I hope we are able to be the massacring party. I've got a couple of points to the game, things that I think we've got to do better. First off, I'm hoping that Dillon Gabriel is on the field. I hope he is able to get the ball to our playmakers. Marvin Mims, please, please, please get the ball in Marvin's hands. It's great to get the ball to Drake Stoops and Jalil Farouk as well, but Marvin's got to have some big touches. I hope Dillon is able to play well, protect the ball like he has earlier in the season, and I hope he is totally healed up from his concussion protocol. I also hope that Kansas doesn't decide to take any cheap shots at him if he scrambles a little bit or anything like that. The other main points are defense related. We have got to stop their run. I think as I was reading last night, Kansas is 14th in the run game nationwide, and our defense is 122nd or something like that in the run defense. So we've got to do better on that part. If it takes a four-man defensive front, let's do it. Whatever it takes, we need to be able to do that. If we're going to let their backup quarterback beat us, he needs to beat us with his arm. Now, he tried to last year. So I know he's a good competitor, even though he's the backup quarterback. I know he'll be out trying to do well, maybe win the starting position back. But we've got to stop the run and make him beat us through the air. I hope we see some new faces, younger guys getting to play defense. I have heard that we are going to see some more of those maybe freshmen, sophomores that haven't been getting much playing time. Hopefully our defensive coordinator is in line with that and planning on letting some of those guys get some reps for practice for next year. Is there anything you can think of, Robin, that I haven't mentioned?
If Gabriel can't play, they got to play a good quarterback.
Oh, yes. If Gabriel is unable to play, which I don't think will be the case, we've got to let one of the other backup quarterbacks at least try. And that doesn't mean let Nick Evers in for 2 possessions and tell him to hand off up the middle. Let's see if he's got an arm. What's wrong with trying it? The season's kind of a bust already, so what's wrong with getting reps that are good for next year? And why haven't we gotten to see General Booty? Come on. Let us see him, Jeff Lebby. Stop this nonsense. Anyway, that's all for now. We've gotten into a little bit of traffic, but we'll still make the game on time. Boomer, Sooner, go OU.
All right, what happens when you take Sooner football and 2 very opinionated and passionate ladies? What do you get? You get Talk Sporty. Welcome. Yes. I'm Dana.
I'm Shawn.
And we are here to talk sporty with you. This is season 1, episode 9. Can you believe that we're this far into the season, Shawn? Oh, my goodness.
No, I cannot. I cannot believe it. Yeah.
Well, tell me about the game. What did you think about the OU Kansas game yesterday?
So it was a really fun atmosphere. It was a fun game. The weather was nice. Everybody seemed pretty excited, which was good coming off the week before. So that was nice to see. It just seemed like the people who were there wanted to be there, and there was a lot of excitement in the air, I thought. And I think people thought this is our chance to kind of turn the season around. A
I
little bit of a
agree.
redemption game.
And it's an 11 o'clock game. And how many times do the students not show up for that? But
Well, they were a little late.
above. They were a little late, but they've pretty much filled in that whole
Yes, they
area
did.
around the
Yeah,
band.
they did.
I thought. I was
they
very
did.
proud that they got there. I mean, it might have been 11:30, 12 when they
Right.
straggled in, but I was proud that they did show up and they were there.
Yes.
Stayed for most of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it was
It
good.
was hot.
Yeah.
I debated about wearing shorts or jeans. And
You do
I
that
kept-
all the time.
I
Look
know
what it's
it.
going to be at the end of the game, not at the beginning of the game, Dana. End of the game.
And then I thought, it says
Keep your
90
eyes on the
degrees.
prize.
Surely shorts will be fine. And I was so
Yes.
glad that I wore shorts.
Oh, yeah.
It was hot. It was as hot as those games in early September. Mm-hmm. That's what it seemed like. And that sun was beating down on us the whole game.
Yes.
Of course, I wasn't
Yeah.
playing and exercising like the guys were. So I'm sure they got very hot.
Yeah. No, I thought about wearing this, but it's a sweater. Crimson sweater says Okla, OKLA, and glittery script. It's pretty fun. But anyway, it's a sweater, and I'm like, no. When it says it's going to be about 88 degrees, 11 o'clock kickoff, and a sunny day, no. No sweater for me.
It was a very smart move on your part.
Yes.
Very smart.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And then I sat the second half with my sister. She's down in the south end zone, and they're in the shade the whole time because my dad was over there. We didn't have him sit in the sun over by me. So then it was pretty comfortable in the shade.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we were
But
in
it's
the-
not as
in the
fun to
sun.
watch the game there.
Well,
Not
right.
at
You
all.
don't have any depth perception in
Yeah.
in those ends.
Yeah, it was really funny because she sat with me most of the first half, and she's like, "Oh, I forgot how close you are to the action." She's like, "This is fun." She's like, "You're so close." And and a lot of stuff happened down, at the north end zone.
You're right.
The
A
first
lot of
half
the
too. There was a lot of
first half
action.
was
So
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a good place to be. So yeah.
Now the boys had on really cool uniforms. They were new.
Yep, those alternate uniforms.
They had been designed by Pat Fields,
Caleb Kelly, Creed Humphreys.
Yes, Creed Humphrey,
Jeremiah Hall.
Yes, and someone else. Anyway,
Yeah.
I guess I should have written that down. But I thought they were really cool.
Me too.
They all said Unity on the back for their
Yes.
name,
Yeah.
where their name would be. Where we sit, it was hard to read their numbers. Their number was enough of, there wasn't a contrast between it
Yeah.
and the color of the jersey so well. And so we'd say, well, Unity sure made a good tackle. Unity sure made a good run. Who was that?
I love it. That's awesome. Well, it's so funny that they were bringing out the alternate uniforms this week because like 4 or 5 weeks ago, that was a topic that I wrote down. I have this list on my phone of different podcast topics. I think of something, and I have a whole thought about alternate uniforms. So since we went there, we can talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
But I'm not always a huge fan of alternate uniforms for how other teams have done them, because I'm kind of a traditionalist and I really like crimson and cream. So I do tend to like OU's alternate unis, like the Bring the Wood and the Rough Riders uniforms. Because they're crimson and cream, and
Yes,
I love that.
yes.
I think that's great.
Classic color.
I love the cream, jerseys. And then the year they did the red, crimson jerseys with the cream pants. I really like that. Like Oregon and Nike, you guys just go do you. Nobody else needs to do that.
But some of those crazy colors that they play
Oh,
in,
gosh, I know.
neon,
But-
everything.
Whatever. Oregon's going to be Oregon. And Nike's got the money for them to do that. So whenever they start talking about alternate uniforms, I'm like, well, it really all depends. Because, did you see TCU's uniforms yesterday?
Yes, I did.
They're alternate uniforms. Okay, and my nephew went to TCU, and I talked to my Sooner sister about this. Really? Red?
Yes, they were red.
Why?
And I thought,
I understand
why.
why.
Red? They're purple.
Okay. So here's the deal.
And stupid horned frogs. I mean, what's a horned frog? Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so that's why they have That's part of why they have the red on their alternate uniforms, because Horned Frogs like spit blood out of either their eye or something like that. And so that's why they put the red with the purple. That's the significance behind their alternate uniforms.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, fine.
I'm really scared
doesn't-
of a horned frog. Come on. Who cares?
It doesn't
what
look
spits
like
on you?
TCU, right?
You can step
And
on
so
it.
yeah. What was that last thing you said?
You can step on it. Who cares if it spits blood at you? Just step on it.
Yeah,
Anyway,
well, but we
sorry.
didn't a couple weeks ago,
No.
so maybe we shouldn't go there. But so I don't like alternate uniforms that don't look like the team. So I'm not always a fan of alternate uniforms that bring in a whole different color, but I have to say that these OU alternate uniforms were awesome looking. Now, what you were talking about with the numbers, when my son was a sophomore, they had their colors were black and gold, but they had a uniform that was that anthracite color, and their numbers were hard to read too, that they actually got rid of them the next year because it was just too hard to see the number against it. Because for those who didn't see the game, OU, they had the numbers in a satiny crimson, which looked really sharp. A little bit of a white outline. I heard somebody say on the radio, maybe if that white outline was a little bit broader, that maybe you could see the numbers. Brett told me that they did not look good on TV.
Oh, okay.
But they looked good in person. The guys liked them. I think unity was this was the perfect week to have that be the message.
I agree. And it just happened to be that way. You know, earlier in the week, there were tweets about how dare them bring this in and why do they think that's going to make the players play better. They had selected these uniforms, designed them, you know, in the past, and they knew they were going to wear them at homecoming. So I thought it couldn't have happened at a better time. I wholeheartedly agree.
And you know what? Recruits like that stuff. They do. Let's be honest. But yeah. And also they were honoring Dr. Prentice Scott, the first Black scholarship player at the university who played from 56 to 59. So a man worthwhile of the honor. And so, yeah.
After college, he got his master's, he got his doctorate. Barry Switzer, they were talking to him pregame, and Barry said, I tried to get him to come help us be an academic advisor, and he wanted to stay at Missouri. And he said, so I really loved teaching. I mean, I knew him. He's a great guy. You know, I wished that he would have come and worked at our university after he played there.
I went back
I thought
and
that was cool to honor him.
Yeah. I went back and read this article on him that I had seen in like the Sooner magazine before. And actually this article was in OU Daily, but I think a reprint of it had been in the OU Sooner magazine one time. And it was talking about how his desire, like in life, his wife said, was just to be a man of great humility and respect. And a lot of the players said he was a person of grace. But one of the stories about him and why these players wanted to honor him with this unity uniform, I think, too, because for a lot of these players, he set the stage for what they would do. And so he was a freshman and they were coming back from a game, I think it said somewhere around Tulsa, and they go to the restaurant, you know, that I'm sure it's already been arranged that the football team's going to come, you know, to this restaurant after the game. And the owner of the restaurant came and said to him, you're going to have to sit down in the basement and eat your meal. He couldn't sit. He wasn't going to be allowed to sit up there with the team. Because, still during segregation and stuff and Jim Crow. And so instead, he just went out to the bus. And on his way out to the bus, or after he got there, he turned and looked, and all of his teammates were coming out of the restaurant because Bud wasn't going to let that happen.
Wow.
And so they didn't eat there that night.
Wow.
And
and great
restaurant
for the team,
owner probably was like,
to stay up, you know, to support him.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and I'm sure there were not always easy times either. And there were some other tough times. But anyway, that just kind of talks about, Bud made sure the players were going and the team was going to back him in that manner.
Yes.
And knew that he was the kind of guy who could help integrate OU football.
Right.
And
he paved the way. Yeah.
Yeah. He was the first black player in a Southern
hard.
school. Yeah. Or,
Wow.
in a kind of Southwest Conference, Big 8 kind of school. He was the first black scholarship player. I did read there were other black players, but he was the first black scholarship player, in one of the schools down in this area. So,
Wow. Well,
thank you,
that's great.
Prentice Scott, for the work
to
you
him.
did.
Yes, thank you. And to his family.
Yes. And I did like the alternate uniforms also and the unity message. And so, it was fun. That was fun. And I think the guys got fired up about it.
I thought that, of course, we get the ball to start the game. Mm-hmm. We come out, and it's like, we've got to do well. We need to go score, or at least have a possession where we make some first downs. Come on, guys. We got to do that. And that's what they did from the start. They took the ball. They worked it all the way down the field, and I think the first score was with 2 minutes and 46 seconds. Mm-hmm. So within that first 2 minutes and 46 seconds, we'd scored a touchdown.
Yes.
And what I read was that's the first opening scoring drive we had since the very first game of the season, I think, is what I read.
Okay.
And that seemed to help give us confidence.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That, hey, we can play against these guys.
Right.
They may be ranked 19th in the nation. I'm not sure that they really deserve to be ranked 19th in the nation, but we can play against them, and we're ahead of them right now.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, that was good because although I got a little nervous on the very first throw, big overthrow.
Yes.
Marvin ran down the field. But the rest of the drive was pretty rock solid, and we also mixed it up, running and passing, so that was really good to see.
Oh, yes. 403 yards passing. Mm-hmm. Is that not awesome? All Dylan Gabriel, he's out there passing 403 yards. And I looked it up against Texas. Our total passing the week before was 39 yards.
Yes.
So 403 compared to 39. I think that lets us know right there that we had a much better game plan for this game.
Agreed. And when we used the Wildcat, we used it in appropriate spots.
Yes. And when we used it, that was the perfect time to pull it out and use it.
Yeah, that was the time to use it.
That goal line stand at the end of the second half, when we're on the 1 foot line and we can't we can't punch it in and score. Why did we not pull the Wildcat out then and try it?
Agreed. I do think that would have been a great spot for the Wildcat. Yes.
Yeah. I think surely
so too.
we could have punched it a foot across.
Yeah. I was a little bit worried.
Didn't try.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I was a little bit worried about that too, because so that gives them a little bit of momentum and they're going to get the ball.
Yes. They're getting the ball at the start of the second half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I'm sure they were like, hey, we held them at the 1 foot line.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And we should have punched it in. I mean, come on. If it takes letting Eric Gray sail over the O line and the D line and end up in the end zone, we didn't even try that. We just tried to run through them. I mean, sometimes you got to jump or wildcat or end around. We never once tried going outside the middle of the line. Never once attempted that.
And
anyway, I would say that was not the best call there, but 403 yards passing and rushing was
just under 300, but part of that was we were taking those knees at the end. So prior to taking the knees at the end, we had just over 300.
Okay.
So
298 rushing.
Yeah.
And
awesome. Some of that, like I said, was Dylan just, stepping back and taking a knee at the end. So before he started doing that, we had over 300. So 700 yards. So,
and that's great. And I know Kansas had 430 total yards. Texas had 585 against us, so I look at that and see that is at least a plus on our
Yeah,
defensive
that's a win.
side. 130 yards less than what we allowed against Texas.
Yeah.
I know it's not the same offense whatsoever, but leading up to the game, they've been saying that our defense was like 117th in the nation, allowing rushing defense. Not
our
total
rushing
defense,
defense.
but rushing
was
defense.
not good. Yeah, that's not been good.
Allowing 240 yards, and that's how many rushing yards that Kansas had been accumulating every game.
So how many rushing yards did Kansas have this game? I didn't pay attention.
Oh, and of course you'd have to ask me that, and I don't have that one written
it's
down.
okay. Don't worry about it.
I think they had like 100, 150, 160.
Yeah.
So
less than
clearly
they've been
under
having.
what they normally have. Yes, clearly under
That's
that.
what I would have thought. I saw some fans, because we talked about how we do have some nasty fans, but how they've been complaining about the defense. But I actually thought they looked much improved
Yes.
this
Yes.
week. I think when your offense is clicking, it makes it easier for your defense. We were sustaining some offensive drives, which we haven't been doing, right? And
Correct.
so the defense gets break. And, Kansas State has not lost since we played them. TCU is still undefeated.
Right.
So, those two games, and we're just not going to, I'm not going to comment on the UT game because we did enough of that last week. But
That
one
color
of the
makes me
things,
puke.
I know. But also Kansas, their last touchdown, we had a bunch of our young guys in. So we had second string guys, we had true freshmen in there. But I want to give a big shout out on defense this week to Key Lawrence, because even in the first quarter, there were some times that he was maybe a little bit out of position. I mean, he would be behind the receiver so he could make an immediate tackle, but he wouldn't really be in position early in the game to make a play on the ball. Well, he turned that around. He had
did.
a good game.
And he batted that ball down that would have been a touchdown in the end zone.
Yeah.
That was 6 points without him stepping in there and batting it down.
Exactly. Yeah. And I noticed a lot of times he was there, between the ball and the receiver. And he was making some tackles, even like on some of the running plays and stuff. So yeah, shout out to Key Lawrence. Way to step it up.
Yes, I agree. The other defensive guy I wanted to shout out to was C.J. Colden.
Oh, yeah. Talk about an interception, man.
Oh, my gosh, that interception was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was the number one play on ESPN last night at the end of all the college football, the college football playback show where they show their highlights. That was the number one replay. And when you see him, he tips it up in the air, and then he realizes, hey, I can get that. And he's falling on his back, and he just kind of grabs it with one arm. Yeah. It was fantastic.
I know. At first, I was happy that he batted.
It was down.
I thought batted down the ball. I didn't realize he caught it with one hand.
I thought he can't catch that. You just see it going down, and then it's like, wait, it's on him. He caught that.
I know. I'm like, dude, did you play basketball in high school? He maybe did. That was very impressive.
I did a little look up on him because I thought, I don't know
Tell me about
who he
CJ
is.
Dana.
Well, he is a redshirt senior, and he just transferred to OU this year from Wyoming. So he's a Wyoming transfer.
Okay.
And I kind of remember hearing about somebody coming from Wyoming, but I hadn't really put it together.
Yeah.
And so he played cornerback at Wyoming, but in high school, he played wide receiver, and he was an all-stater.
Okay.
I assume Wyoming. I'm not sure. It didn't really say where he'd grown up.
Okay.
But he played wide receiver all through high school.
So he's got good hands.
He's got good hands, and he said, I've been blessed with good hands. I can catch the ball like that. And so you realize he made an interception last week against Texas.
Yes. No,
And he
knew
made
that.
an interception this week against Kansas. And so Deshaun White had said, they interviewed him after the game, and he said, I'm so proud of my boy. I think that's what he called him.
Yeah.
He goes by CJ, and he said he's finally, he was not able to come and play spring ball, so he came in the summer,
Right.
fall ball. And so Deshaun said he's finally learned the plays and the terminology, and we're going to see a whole lot more out of him as the season goes on. He said,
I love that.
He's showing you one interception in the last 2 games, so we're like, let's go for another one when we play Iowa State.
Exactly, for sure. And he was a wide receiver. He's playing cornerback. DJ Graham's going to be moving to wide receiver. He's the one who had that fabulous one-handed catch against Nebraska last year. So, yeah.
Yes, and he's going to go switch back to wide receiver. Was he recruited to play wide receiver, I think?
That's what I had read, is that he was, and that the wide receiver room was pretty packed. And they're like, well, and he played both in high school, like a lot of those guys do. I mean, and a lot of guys play both ways. And so he made the switch, but he was always been kind of a wide receiver at heart. So it sounded like DJ was excited, to get back to playing wide receiver. And, and that, our wide receivers had a good game. I mean, Marvin did great. Braden, I know Braden's not a wide receiver. I know Braden's a tight end. But Braden had a fabulous game, over 100-yard game. Talk about that. Those guys, those leaders, they were stepping up, man. You could just see. They were. They're like, we are going to fight. We're going to show you guys how it's done. And it's like they were kind of pulling along the younger guys. And
yes, I think so. They were like, come on. We got to keep this going. We got to keep this going.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
and then
I was
Theo
so happy
got out there. So Theo's like, we were worried he was maybe, hurt, but, he had some great catches and touchdown and all the things.
Yeah. So all the wide
continues
receivers
to be Jalil.
We got the ball to all of them, which is what we need to do. They're our playmakers.
Exactly.
Stoops had a phenomenal catch when we needed it.
He
He kind of stretched out for one and caught it.
Oh, yeah.
Let his body get, bruised and hurt on the field. And then Gavin Freeman. Do you remember?
Sweet little Gavin.
Oh, my gosh. He had one, a 40-yard.
He had another diving catch.
Yes, diving catch where he's
like,
diving.
I've got to do this for my guys.
And he did. I think it helps. As I remember, he's over 6 feet tall. It helps that he's a tall, lanky guy. But I was like, that's a true freshman out there. Way to go.
Yeah. We got the freshman
doing some stuff. And, of course, all that passing opened up the run game. So then it was a whole lot easier for our run game to get established, too. Because Eric Gray had, 160 yards?
Oh, I don't know.
176 rushing yards. Yeah.
Yeah, and Javante Barnes had a great game. And Dylan got quite a bit of yards on the ground, too.
Yes, he did.
Dylan
of course,
made
every
some
time
plays.
he'd take off to run, I'd go, no, stop.
I know. Then he'd make
it scared me as a mom.
And,
it's like, please don't hurt him.
I know, especially after the Baylor quarterback went out on Thursday night. Had the same thing that happened to Dylan. He was sliding and he got targeted, and he had to go. Sapin had to go out.
Yeah, I heard that. And then they went on to lose the game. I don't know if I would assume that had something to do with it.
Sure,
I'm not sure. I would assume that it did.
Yeah, that was a tight game. There are a lot of tight games.
I wish that I'd watched it. I didn't even realize it was on a Thursday, or I would tune in.
I had been at a continuing ed course and came home, and Brett was watching the NFL game, which was kind of boring, that Chicago game, and I saw somebody post on Facebook, and I'm like, well, I'm turning it over to this game. And so it was very late in the fourth quarter when we started watching it, but it's just kind of back and forth. But, it's hard to play in Morgantown at night.
Yeah.
They tend to play tough at night. So, yeah. And then yesterday, another tight one, that TCU Oklahoma State game, which I listened to on the radio while driving home. I watched some of it. We were at the restaurant. So I was watching some of it, and it was really funny because my dad, he's like cheering for Oklahoma State. And my sister looks at him and she goes, okay, I know you sent one of your 3 daughters to Oklahoma State, but my son went to TCU. So, Dad, I'm going to be cheering against you right now.
So at least
and I'm just like, I just want to see a good game.
Yeah, well, and it was a good game.
Yeah.
Yes. We got back home in enough time to watch. We watched the second half of it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because TCU had to fight back.
They did. They were down. And so I really thought OSU will go ahead and just close
Oh,
this
yeah.
out. And then
Exactly. That's
there
what I thought,
definitely
too.
had been some halftime adjustments with TCU. I mean, their defense stepped up and kept OSU from being able to run and
Right.
and pass. Passing game was not like it had been in the first half.
Right.
And then
Yeah, that's what I
all of a
heard.
sudden it's a tie game. And that Max Duggan, I mean, he seemed to be all over the field.
Kind of like when he played us, huh?
Oh, yes. And then when it went to overtime, I don't know. I just had that feeling where you're like, this is on their field. OSU needs to win this immediately
Yes.
the first
Yes.
time, or it
Right.
may get, it may get out of hand.
Yeah.
And when they couldn't complete, they had a holding call on the second overtime. They had a holding call on the first down.
Okay.
And
I turned
so-
it back to the radio then because I was also listening to the Bama-Tennessee game. And so I was kind of going back and forth.
You were listening to both. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that holding call pushed them back, made it 1st and 20.
Yeah.
And they had to kick a field goal. They
Right.
just were not able to get the ball any closer
And
than
then
field goal range.
TCU scored like in 2 or 3 plays, right? I mean,
Yes.
they
Yes.
didn't. I mean, they just, boom. They didn't even
Duggan
have to
threw
get a
little
first down.
pass. Yeah, I kind of think maybe one first down, and then they ran it in the end zone. It was like, wow, and it was over. It was just kind of a real quick kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, there were lots of good games. And then,
Yes.
the Bama-Tennessee game, that was quite exciting. And then He Who Must Not Be Named, his team
Correct.
went down. And I am all right with that. Go Utes.
So I'd gotten home and we started watching that game. And after halftime, I just look at Brett and I go, I got up at 6 o'clock this morning to drive to Norman. I just cannot hang and watch this game.
So you didn't finish it?
No.
You didn't see the...
I
Oh,
did
wow.
not, but
Well-
Brett told me this morning, first thing when I woke up, he goes, they won by 1. And I go, which team won by 1?
It was another one of those halftime adjustments. The Utes came out, and they were able to make up, points and keep USC from. They still had big plays. Caleb
Yeah.
Williams can.
Well, yeah, Caleb's
He's going to scramble
amazing.
and get 50 yards sometimes on
He
just
is.
a busted play.
Yeah.
And he is a very good player. He is. I mean,
Oh,
when you
he
watch
is.
him, it's like,
Yeah.
wow.
Yes.
But
Yeah, you're like,
he-
how does he do that? Kind of like Kyler would get out of things sometimes. Or Baker.
Yes.
I mean, he's right in that vein of those Riley quarterbacks we had, right? I mean, yeah.
Well, but USC's defense, they were in the speed D, like OU used to play.
We
And as
love
you
to
watched
give
in the
Alex
second
Grinch
half, you're
issues.
like, there's no defense out there on the field. There is
right.
no defense for USC.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to take anything away from the Utes. They had a good game plan going in, but they were able to just drive down the field. It took them longer to score than USC, but they were able
Right.
to drive down the field and score.
Yeah.
And so they get it down with about 30. They milk the clock because it's like we don't want to give USC any time.
Yeah.
They get it down with about 30 seconds to go in the game. And they get a touchdown and they go for 2 and they get it.
That's what Brett said. He said they
That's
went for
how
2.
they won.
Which, hey, that last week, weren't we talking about how, or the one before that, how Texas didn't have the guts to go for 2? You know,
Yes.
that
Oh,
year
yes. And
that they
OU
just went for the
Texas, yes.
tie. They just went for the tie, and then they're telling us how they're number 1. And, well, hey, kudos. Even if they had lost, I got to say, kudos to the Utes for going for 2.
Right. So they went for 2. They get it. There's a little quarterback keep. It looks like he's going to pass it, but he just
Okay.
kind of stands around for a minute, and then he runs right in and scores. So USC gets the ball back, and they had a couple timeouts, so they used those. And, of course, Caleb's trying to get anything accomplished, but they finally run out of time. I mean,
Okay.
one scramble takes 9 seconds off, and
Right.
another one takes 8, and something, and all of a sudden you're like, he only has time for 1 or 2 more plays.
Yeah.
And they
Okay.
were missed passes. And so
Okay.
it was an exciting game. You should have stayed
Yeah.
up. Or
Oh,
recorded
I
it.
know. I know. I can go back and watch it. But yes, that's we are not necessarily sad about that.
No, we're not. And they kept
We
showing.
were all Utes fans last night.
Oh, yes, we were. And
Yes, we
they
were.
kept showing Grinch on the sidelines, and he'd have his hands out, with this just like question, look of,
Oh,
and this, kind of crazy look on his face. And I'm like, this is your speed D. It doesn't work against a mobile quarterback. It just doesn't. It didn't work in the Big 12, and I don't think it's working out there if they're playing a team that's got the ability for the quarterback to run.
Well, and let's talking about that, and we were talking about how people have been going on about OU's defense, which they needed some improvement. It looks like they're making some improvements, and like I've said before, I had to believe there was talent on the team. But can we talk about how many points are scored? I mean, the Alabama-Tennessee game, both teams scored a bunch of points, right?
Well, and they said that the
TCU,
Alabama, that's the most
teams.
they've ever allowed since 1907. That's the most
I had not heard
Alabama defense has allowed in a college football game since 1907.
Josh Heupel, you go.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious.
And so it's interesting to me, too. We've had these run-pass options in the Big 12 for years now.
Yes.
And all we would hear the ESPN guys talk about is how crappy our defense was. Our defense sucks.
defense.
We don't know how to play defense. And now that it's in the SEC, when you've got it going on at Tennessee, the Bama quarterback, the Kentucky quarterback, the Arkansas quarterback, when you see it, they don't talk about how bad their defense is. They're like, these are just great offensive minds they're great offensive players. So it's just hard to stop them. And I'm kind of like, that's not what you used to say about the Big 12.
I know.
But they have kind of quit saying it about us now, too.
Yeah. So that's kind of, I'm like, okay, RD might need some improvement, but also let's realize we are playing in, this Big 12 air raid, and all these other teams that are supposed to be so great, they are also allowing a lot of points. And so it's college football right now, a lot of times, except maybe in the Big 10, it's
so boring.
It can be boring, yes. But Michigan did score 41 points yesterday, so
I
go
know,
Blue.
they did.
Go
they
Blue.
just killed them.
Yes, but it's about who's going to score the most points. And so like last week, when we don't have an offense, we're not going to win. I'm not sure it was that Texas's defense was so fabulous, although that Texas-Iowa State game, that was kind of an interesting game too. But anyway. So
that's true. I mean, neither one of them scored very much there. So I'm assuming their defense played better.
Yes, I guess. I don't know. I didn't watch it. We were.
I don't know.
We were at the game.
We didn't see it.
We were
either.
cheering for Iowa State.
Oh I like Matt Campbell. I think he's a very good coach.
I do too.
I would assume he'll get offered a bigger place, a better place. I hope so. Not to say that Iowa State is awful. I don't know. To me, Iowa State, he's there. He's kept it maintained for several years. They are usually in the hunt for the championship.
Yes.
I think it's time for him to get a more well-known name like Nebraska, maybe, something like that. Maybe he could go coach there and bring back some of the greatness to that place.
Yeah. So another thing, I don't know how we're doing on time. I don't want to talk too long, but talking about long. So Brett said, he texted me, he's like, oh my gosh, that was the longest game ever, talking about the OU game. And I'm like, really? It didn't seem that long. But, it was on ESPN too, but the TCU game was on ABC, and that game took forever, and part of it was commercials. And I was switching back and forth between the Fox games, which, are like usually Michigan, and those games are done. Same start time, they are done way before. And people, they're talking about, we talked about this earlier, not tonight, but when we've just talked on our own about all the new rules and how you can go out of bounds, but then that doesn't necessarily stop the clock it'll stop it for a minute and then it'll start running again. And, and everybody's like, well, college football games are too long. They've got to do something. No, college football games, if they just let them play, this is my philosophy, aren't too long. The stupid TV timeouts, that's what makes college football games long.
It's the advertising. Yes. The advertising. And that little man.
Which is where all the money comes from.
Yeah, which comes out with his orange sleeve, and you're like, oh, my goodness, it's going to be 3.5 minutes or whatever time he holds up. Takes forever.
And so I just find that annoying because I liked it when there was that strategy of we have to, get out of bounds because we're going to stop the clock. Well, unless it's under 2 minutes, the clock will start right back. And so I think that takes out a little bit of a little bit of the strategy. But the long games, it's not because of how the college football games go. Maybe partly because there's more passing than running like there used to be, but it's because of all the TV timeouts and all the commercials.
Right. And I was just going to say the running game, if you're predominantly run heavy team, then yes, you're going to be done sooner than OSU or TCU or somebody that's going to pass, 2 out of 4 downs.
Right.
Because an incomplete pass, the clock definitely starts.
Yes.
A complete pass, if you get a first down, the clock stops to move the chains, but then it immediately starts back up. So yes, anyway. And if you run, and you run big 40-yard gaps, down the field, not gap, a gash on the other team. I didn't say that right. But, then time continues to tick. It stops to move the chains, but starts right back up. So,
Anyway, he said it was a really long
else?
game.
I had a few things. I'm just...
Okay.
I was really proud that we had a game plan. We had an offensive game plan.
Yay for game plans.
Like Shawn and I hollered about last week after the Texas game, that the Wildcat is not a game plan.
No.
Lebby took some grief over the week in his press conferences, and he needed to.
Yes.
And finally,
I still wasn't thrilled with his answers either. Actually,
they were
didn't take much ownership.
But they did finally say, why did General Booty not play? Well, he was he said he had a minor deal, and then you kind of check before the game, pre-game minor. I think he called it a deal. Anyway, as you check into it, there was report that maybe he had an allergy attack. Maybe his contacts were watering and he didn't have a replacement. It was all just kind of
Right.
And where we were at the game, my husband saw him on the sidelines with his helmet on and his chin strap on. And when he didn't get to go out and play in the second half, he took his helmet off, put it under his arm, and he went and sat down on the sidelines. He certainly didn't look like he was having any sort of allergy attack or trouble finding the bench. So I don't know that I believe that.
Right.
A couple of the other questions were, do you not believe, to Lebby, do you believe in a gamer? And he's like, what do you mean?
Oh, this one annoyed me.
Yes, this one, yes. Where he said, no, I don't. I think you're only as good as the practice that you put in. And I don't believe that someone cannot look good in practice and come out and look really well in a game. And I have to tend to disagree with that because I know plenty of people that do better in a stressful situation than they do in a practice, rote, memorized type scripted session,
In fact, you can have somebody who looks great in practice and looks awful in a game.
Yes. And I think that may have been what we saw at Texas.
Could be. Yeah, that could be. That may be what happens with Davis Bevel.
Yeah, the nerves may get him, they really may. And so at least I was excited to see, of course, the game plan still revolved around Dillon Gabriel.
Right. But that's fair. He is our starter, but you still have to.
Yes.
You need a game plan when he can't be there.
And they purposely got the ball to our playmakers, Marvin Mims, Braden Willis, Drake Stoops. They let Eric Gray get a bunch of runs in. Even Javante Barnes. I guess Marcus Major is still injured. I did not see him on the sideline. Yeah, he didn't play at all,
so I wasn't sure what was up with Marcus,
But you've got to get the ball in the hands of the playmakers, that the experienced playmakers that can catch it and make yards after a catch and make yards as they're being tackled. And, So I was excited to see that he had at least maybe some of the riffraff that he got after the game. Maybe he thought about it and said, I can do better.
Mm-hmm.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope
Yes.
Lebby thought about it like that.
Same. Agreed. Let's hope so. Or maybe what happened to Booty before the game is what happened to me. Like during one of our scores in the second quarter, we just right when we were scoring, and I can't even remember who it was because I'm sitting there and I'm like, I felt something on my ear, kind of like if you've got like a little bug or something. I'm like, what is that? And then my earlobe just starts stinging. I got stung by something.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, but I'm like, and so I want to cheer, but my ear's stinging. And I look at Shane, my sister, and I go, okay, something just stung me on my earlobe. And she looks, and she actually pulled the stinger out.
Oh, my God.
The stinger was still in my earlobe. And so, yeah. So maybe that's what happened to General Booty before the Texas game. Maybe he got stung by a bee like I got stung by a bee on my earlobe, and I couldn't celebrate as much and as well as I wanted to on that particular touchdown.
I was going to say, maybe Texas had a drone and they sent it over and it squirted water in his face and he couldn't see. But I don't believe that.
I don't either. But anyway.
Because you could have gone in. You could have gone in the second half, right?
I could, yes. I was there I was cheering hard for the next touchdown. Got some ice out of my sister's cup and put it on my ear, and all was good. The fandom continued. The cheering continued. I was in my place. I was doing my part.
Yes,
so, yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing we did have that I just wanted to mention, we did have 3 turnovers.
Yes, we did.
And Dylan hasn't had any turnovers up until this game. 1 interception, 2 fumbles. And the fact that our defense responded, I mean, they had 2 takeaways on their own. But they responded. You know, if you lose 3, if you have 3 takeaways, it's hard to win a game if you're evenly
It is hard.
matched.
Yes,
and I felt like we were fairly evenly matched, but we were able to take care of the business. You know, the defense was able to take care of those and keep them from hurting us that much.
Yes.
So I was proud of the defensive guys for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hope we get Billy Bowman back. I guess he's didn't suit up. Do you have any words?
So I did see something that indicated that he, having this bye week is going to help. So he might be ready shortly after that.
What is his injury?
I don't really know.
I heard his leg, but that was from. Yeah. Was that from a kickoff return back in the Texas game early?
I don't really know what happened. Look, me not doing my research.
No, it wasn't the Texas game. Sorry, it was the.
No, it was the game before the TCU game.
It was the TCU game. Yeah, it was the TCU game. So he's been out 2.5 games, and it was early in the game because he went out and then
Dylan Gabriel it was pretty early.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have him by. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So okay. Well, anything else? Any other thoughts, Shawn?
Yeah. I've got not about the game, but I've got some stuff. Okay. So my question for you today, tell me about your favorite today is I want you to tell me about your favorite OU game in Norman, your favorite OU game that you've been to in Norman.
Oh, gosh, Shawn, don't do me that way. Oh.
I know there's a lot to choose from. I mean, we've been going to football.
There are tons of them.
We got to Norman in 1982, so I realized that this is, oh my gosh, it's 40 years worth of football games, Dana. That's like really frightening to me.
It really wasn't that significant, but it was really fun. Mm-hmm. And I don't know the year. It's when Texas A&M was still in the Big 12.
They had not been one of mine
for the SEC. And we hung 77 points on them. Yes. And they scored a big 0 goose egg.
2003.
Okay, 2003. So you looked it up.
Yes, I did. Because that's one of mine.
I'm like, that was a fantastic game. And I know that Stoops took grief for it. He got people on the radio.
He did, that's true.
Talked about how he ran up the score. He had the second stringers in by halftime, and he had the third string in all of the fourth quarter.
Yes. Yeah, he did.
But those guys, they don't get to play. You can't
That's
blame
right.
them for hey,
Nope.
I'm going to get a touchdown.
Agreed.
Watch, Mom, I'm
Agreed.
on TV. I'm going to score.
Yeah. Sure.
You can't blame them for that.
No.
So
not at all.
I just remember that was a fantastic game, and
it was a
everybody
fun
stayed
one.
till the end. Even
Yes.
even though it was a blowout, at least
Yeah.
everybody around me stayed till the end. You just
Yeah.
wanted to see how bad.
No, it was a good one. Actually, I worked with some people who were Aggie fans, and the year before we had lost to them, and I don't know, was the year before that year we went to the Aggie game all together? I don't know. Anyway,
It was
remember
one of
we
those
went down-
years. Yes, we
Yeah.
went, but we won.
So-
Didn't we win that game when we all went?
I don't know.
I kind of think we did when we journeyed down there in the van.
But anyway, they gave me a really hard time and filled up my office with balloons with the score. And I don't even remember what the score was in 2002. But and I try to be really nice. I mean, I'll be happy that we won, but I try not to lord it over people.
Yes.
But anyway, when we won 77-0, and I had kept all those balloons that after they popped, I don't know why I kept them.
Why had you
I just put them all over her desk, and I said, "This is what happens, 77-0. This is what happens to people who gloat."
Yeah. What goes around comes around.
Yes. But okay, so I'll tell you about that.
Yes,
Was one of my favorites, and I left out the games. I left out the games from 2000 because that OU Nebraska game in 2000, when we tore down the goalpost, much like Tennessee did yesterday, was
Yes.
one of my favorites ever. But so another close favorite, but still not my number one, was in 1983, and it was actually a loss. We played Nebraska. It
Okay.
was 21-28, but it was in the rain. It
Okay.
was raining by the end of the game. We had Spencer Tillman and Danny Bradley, and Derek
place,
Shepard
great
was on the team then. I mean, it was a tough game. They had Tommy Frazier played for them, Mike Rozier. So,
Okay.
people know in college football. We lost, but it was an amazing game because, I mean, oh gosh, the teams were fighting until the bitter end. So it was like a wonderful game to see from that standpoint.
Yes, to witness.
To witness, yeah. It was, but my favorite, I think, was in 2008 when we played Texas Tech. It was a night game.
Oh, the shoot 'em out.
Yep, the jump around game, and they came in number 2.
Oh,
We
yes.
were number 5. DeMarco, our running backs coach, he's right before half, he scored 42-7, and that's when they just start doing the whole jump around thing, and the crowd was so loud.
Yes, the crowd was electric. Yes.
Yes.
Louder than, maybe louder than
Same.
than I've ever heard.
Agreed. And I think maybe the week before did the fans get called out for kind of.
Yes. As
Yes.
I remember,
Yeah.
Bob had called
That's
out.
what
He's
I
like,
remember,
this
too.
is a home game, and if
Yes.
you all can't show up, then sell your
Yeah.
tickets to somebody who wants to be there.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And the final score, I think, was 65-21. It was on my birthday. So there's that, too. It was on my birthday
Excellent
that year.
birthday
But
gift.
Sam Bradford and Jermaine Gresham and DeMarco and all those guys. Oh, yeah. That was a fun one. And it was the
2008.
loudest.
Okay.
2008. That was the loudest I think I've ever heard Oklahoma Memorial.
Well, and I'm
Stadium
sure the
being.
Tech fans had brought tortillas because they throw those at their games.
They probably
did.
did. When they were ranked number 2 in the country at the time, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was a big deal for them.
Was Mike Leach coaching? No. He was coaching there. Okay, probably.
Yes.
He probably was. if
And
you were
I
number
read
2.
that Riley was
An assistant
yes.
or a grad
Yeah.
assistant or something.
Yeah, he was like a grad assistant for them then. And his wife, so one of the articles I read said that his wife is like, I never want to come back here ever again.
And then she had to move there, huh? I guess
And then
that's
she
why
had to
she
move
wanted
there.
the sunny California.
Yes, you're right. You're right. But anyway, so yeah, that's our tell me about your favorite for this week.
Have fun. Have fun.
So yeah,
Excellent. Well, we have no
Love it.
games next week. We get a bye, which I think
We
is
do.
probably good for everybody. I
Yes.
think I think I heard Coach Venables say he was going to give them Monday off. I assume they looked at game film today. I don't know exactly how all that works, but
Right.
I think he said in the post game that they'd have Monday off, and then they would get back at some work. But he was going to be a little lighter on them this week and kind of
That's
let
probably
them
good. Yeah.
rest a little bit, which I think is good. Yeah, like you've been saying that he may not be giving them quite enough, mental health breaks and physical breaks too.
Well, didn't you say that Schmitty had told him that they needed a break?
Yes. It said, we won't name who said this, but the strength and conditioning coach said they need a break. That they're getting overworked. So
sometimes you can't overwork your body,
and then they'll get ready for Iowa State.
Yeah, and I think
it's
they were
hard to stay up there.
It is.
That game's on the road.
Yeah. And they have lost, I think the last couple games they've lost were pretty close to. This week they lost by 3 to Texas. And I think they lost by Kansas the week before, like really close.
Okay.
So, they are not, they're kind of where we were this past week. They're going to be like that when we play them. Although I don't know if Iowa State, they've maybe already had their bye, so they may be having a game this coming Saturday.
Oh, that's true. They may have a week. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
They may have a game this week.
So anyway.
But yes, they are the bottom dweller of the Big 12
Yes,
standings.
they have not won a Big 12 game.
Right, they're 0-4, and we're
so they're going to have something to prove to themselves too.
1-3.
Yeah.
So we can't really say anything about that. We're both down there in the bottom, and we really need to pull a win out of this. We do. But I liked what I saw this week. I saw improvement. I saw grit, which we've been seeing grit from some of these players, but. I thought, and if like we said, if the offense is working and doing some things, it makes it easier on the defense. I mean, and that works both ways. When the defense is making stops, it makes it easier on the offense. But when our offense is not 3 and out, where our defense is on the field the whole time, it does make a difference. Right, it does. And I think Venables even said at the post-game press conference, he said, they complemented each other very well.
Absolutely, yes.
And we haven't
it's
necessarily
very balanced.
been seeing that. Yeah, a good balance. We actually had the ball. We pretty much had the ball for half of the game, like 30 minutes, and Kansas had it for close to 30 minutes. We may have actually
finally won the time of possession, not by a lot, but we won the time of possession, which we haven't been winning that at all.
That's got to help the guys on defense get a little bit of a rest and a breather and get ready to come back in, especially with it being so hot on Saturday. It was very hot. So
and it was fun seeing some of those young guys in. So it's good.
It was. I was very happy.
Okay, so Dana, I'd forgotten to talk about this. This is pretty funny. So I didn't get to watch game day this week because I was in the car.
You were driving. Yeah.
I was driving. And, you were probably getting ready for the game. But so I guess Peyton Manning was one of the guest pickers. How they'll have the game since it was at Tennessee.
Oh, because it was at Tennessee, of course.
Right.
Okay. Of course.
And so I just thought this was pretty hilarious. So because Peyton's hilarious. Let's be honest.
He's very funny.
Yeah, he's so kind of boring and straight mannish that he's funny. But anyway, so he said he was picking the Kansas-Oklahoma game, or the Oklahoma-Kansas game, but on here it says that he hasn't cared about a game between these two schools since Danny Manning took on Mookie Blaylock in the 1988 basketball finals.
That's probably true. And you know what? Oklahoma lost in the finals, and we've beaten them twice in the season. We beat them at OU, and we beat them at Kansas. And then I'll be dadgummed if Danny Manning, and he had one foul the whole game. He had one foul. And he was the biggest guy out there on the whole stinking court. And he didn't foul anybody, but he played post, and he post up, and he just...
Dana's like, I don't believe it.
He just body slammed people out of the way, and then they'd call our guy for fouling. Was that Stacey King?
Yes.
I think Stacey King was our center, and he was skinny compared to Danny Manning, because Danny Manning, well, he was a beefy kind of guy. I guess he still may be kind of beefy. But he would just knock our guy out. And then they'd go, we fouled, and he'd get 2 points and a free throw.
Yeah. I was in Michigan. I went over and watched the game with Celia Clayton, because she was in grad school at Michigan at the time, too. Yeah, okay. And so Celia and Brett and I, we all watched the game together, so.
Oh, how fun.
The Michigan people watching. But so it was funny because.
Was that when Peyton Manning was in school at Tennessee?
Oh, no. I don't think so.
Okay, was that, okay.
No.
I mean, I don't know when he was in college. It seems like he's older, but he's not our age.
I guess he might have been. He's younger than us.
Okay.
Maybe not a lot.
He might have been in school then. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Talk Sporty listeners are really disappointed at us that we don't know when Peyton Manning was at Tennessee.
I think he's an old guy, but I don't think
he's quite as old as us. But so anyway, but it was funny because then Peyton goes on to say, he said, it's desperation time in Oklahoma. And he said, and also Greg Sankey could rescind the invitation to the SEC if Oklahoma doesn't beat Kansas. So then Peyton goes, I'm going with Oklahoma.
Well, thank you, Peyton, for picking the Sooners.
Thank you, Peyton.
Then we put it through.
Woo, Peyton. We love you, guy.
Did he pick Tennessee? I would assume he picked Tennessee.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, he probably picked Tennessee. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you imagine how loud it would have been there?
Oh, my God.
Because we went to a game there.
When we went to that game that Baker played, it was loud.
Yeah. It was loud.
I cannot imagine. They interviewed Josh at the end of the game, Josh Heupel, Tennessee's coach. If you're not a Sooner fan, you wouldn't know that. If you are, of course, you know who Josh is.
He won a national championship for us people.
I'm so amazed. I mean, the crowd was in it from the start.
Yeah.
He was thanking the crowd for being there, and he was like, this is just a fantastic atmosphere.
Yeah.
I mean, we won. Even if we hadn't won, man, this place was rocking.
Yeah.
So he gave a shout out to the crowd.
Oh, good. I'm happy for Josh. And Nick Saban had a couple of little hissy fits too. He was not happy, but he was stomping around some.
Oh, I didn't see that. I missed that because I was flipping back and forth,
So I saw one when we were at the restaurant, and that was before halftime, and he's just like throwing stuff down. And he wasn't happy about some call. I can't even remember what call it was. And then I guess towards the end of the games, another one happened, and he was. I heard it, made Sports Center.
Oh, wow.
Nick's hissy fit. And Nick's not usually like that,
Yeah.
But he was.
Oh, it's Nick, not Josh Heupel.
No,
Nick was the one.
Nick Saban had a couple little hissy fits. I mean, I texted Brett, and I'm like, Nick is acting like a 2-year-old. He's having a little temper tantrum.
Interesting. Well, he doesn't like to lose. And, usually if the refs can kind of call it his way, I always think he gets
I think
he and his team get the benefit of the doubt. If it's like questionable, they'll go, there's really no penalty. And they'll put the flag in their
maybe
pocket.
he wasn't getting the benefit of the doubt always. But Bryce Young looked pretty awesome.
Oh, he did. Okay.
He was back. Okay. And the little bit I saw while we were eating dinner, Bryce looked good. Yeah, Bryce doing Bryce stuff.
Well, that Hendon Hooker, he's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He looks really good.
Yeah, he looked good. People say he's maybe Heisman candidate. Yeah.
I watched him some last year, and he was great with the running option. He just wouldn't always hit his receivers. So I think with another year under his belt, he's definitely improved in that passing game.
Yeah, cool. All right, we'll go Tennessee.
Okay.
Go Josh Heupel. All right.
Yes,
thank you, Peyton, for the shout out.
Yeah, thanks, Peyton and Danny Manning. I guess this is it, and we won't have. I'm assuming we won't do a podcast next week since we don't have a game, but we will talk to you guys after the Iowa State game, and we need another W. We need another win in the win column.
Need another W.
Yes, W.
W. We need a W.
W.
Let's go Sooners.
All right, Boomer.
Sooner.
Well, OU. Woo.